So when I look back at my life, it's almost like my life is split into two distinct parts. PC, pre-Christ, and SC, since Christ. I know those terms will probably work well in Southern California, but my heart is that this message would be shared to give people hope who are going through similar situations. When I look back at my childhood and my youth, we had a lot of affluence in our family, but not much peace. I always wondered why my grandparents and my parents, who seemingly had everything the world said would make them happy, spent so much time fighting. It always just made me question a lot of different things. One of the big things that happened in my life was my dad, who was my hero. He was a fighter pilot in the United States Air Force. When he returned from Vietnam, my parents' relationship just wasn't quite the same. And when I was 12 years old, my dad left our family. And what I remember about that is feeling fear, feeling a need for affirmation that I could no longer get from my earthly father. Even though he only moved 30 minutes away, I hardly ever saw him. I longed for his affirmation, but it wasn't there. So I turned to anything I could get my hands on that gave me a feeling of anesthetizing that pain. And that would include things like using marijuana, using alcohol, having sex. Anything what the world said would make me feel better. But what I found is after the buzz wore off, I had more pain than I had in the beginning. So as I became a young adult, my career on the outside had tons of worldly success. I had everything, again, the world said should make me happy. I had a house in Southern California near the beach. I had $1 million in the bank, but yet I was still empty. So I was continuing to search and try to find authentic, real answers. And one day my neighbor invited me to church, and I remember thinking, boy, I've never been to church in my life. I have no idea what to expect. What I found there was shocking. As soon as I walked in the door, the pastor was up on stage speaking, but I wasn't hearing a word he was saying. Instead, what I was hearing is Jesus speaking directly into my heart, telling me that he'd been waiting for me, that I was his beloved child, that he was welcoming me back home. And instantly I felt this burden being lifted off of my shoulders that had been there for the first 37 years of my life. And I remember wanting more of that and wanting to go deeper in that relationship. And one of the first fruits of hearing what I was hearing was a mindset to forgive my father for all of the pain and the suffering, and learning to seek reconciliation. And that's continued on to this day. Although my father's gone, I look at all relationships in my life as a chance to bring healing and a chance to find peace, because it took me a long time to realize that what the world says makes us happy actually doesn't, and in some cases just leaves us more empty. So the last 17 years in my walk with Jesus hasn't always been easy, but it's always left me feeling much more content than I ever did in my life prior. Although the world had given me everything it said should make me happy, it never really fulfilled me. On the other hand, once I met Jesus and had this beginning of a personal relationship with him, everything began to change. My relationships got stronger. My relationship grew into marriage with my neighbor, who is now my wife, and my life has become so joyful and peaceful. As a result, I want to bring hope to others and try to resolve some of the conflicts that's existing today through basically an agenda-fueled media that seeks to divide and use negativity, and instead bring the hope and love of Jesus for reconciliation and peace, reminding us that we're all just children of God, and we all need the hope that only Jesus can offer.